The stars belonged to many races, but fear belonged to all of them now. Commander Taimin stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the tactical display with growing dread. Red dots swarmed across the screen like angry insects. Each dot represented a Kreth bioship, and there were thousands of them. Behind those dots lay 4 dead worlds, consumed down to their cores. Another colony just went dark, reported Jiwoo from her communication station. Her voice remained steady, but her hands shook slightly. That's Varan 5, 2 million Quirani lived there. Taimin said nothing. What could he say? The Galactic Defense Fleet had tried everything. Conventional weapons barely scratched the Kreth vessels. Their bio-armor adapted within hours. Energy weapons that worked yesterday became useless today. The swarm learned faster than any species could develop new tactics. The bridge crew worked in tense silence. They were Valthine, a species known throughout the galaxy for their engineering genius. Their ships were technological marvels, but genius meant nothing against an enemy that consumed planets and grew stronger with each meal. Sir, the Council is requesting your presence, Jiwoo said. Emergency session. Taimin glanced at the tactical display one more time. The red tide was spreading. Tell them I'll attend via HoloLink. I'm not leaving my post. The holographic projector activated and suddenly Taimin stood in the virtual council chambers. Representatives from 17 species surrounded him, each one looking as exhausted as he felt. The Draxel warrior representatives stood rigid in their armored exoskeletons. The Quirani telepaths huddled together, sharing their anxiety through mental links. The smaller species looked ready to flee. Council Chairman Vorath spoke first. His Draxel voice rumbled like grinding stones. Commander Taimin, your fleet was our strongest. Now you have lost half your ships in 3 battles. Explain this failure. Taimin felt anger flash through him, but he controlled it. With respect, Chairman, this is not about fleet strength. The Kreth adapt to everything we throw at them. They learn our tactics in real time. We need a new approach. A Quirani counselor's mental voice echoed in everyone's mind. We have tried 17 different strategies. All have failed. Then we need an 18th, Taimin said quietly. The council erupted into arguments. Some demanded retreat to the core worlds and abandoning the outer colonies. Others insisted on negotiation, though the Kreth had never responded to any communication attempts. A few suggested building superweapons, projects that would take years while worlds died in days. Taimin stopped listening. He had heard it all before. The council was trapped in old thinking, applying old solutions to a new problem. They needed something radical, something unexpected. His thought was interrupted by Jiwoo's urgent voice cutting through the hologram. Sir, you need to hear this. I'm picking up something strange. Taimin ended the council link and returned his full attention to the bridge. Report. Jiwoo's fingers danced across her console. There's a signal coming from Sector 842. Very faint, but definitely artificial. Sector 842? Taimin frowned. That's the dead zone. Nothing survives there. That's what makes this interesting, Jiwoo said. She isolated the signal and played it through the bridge speakers. Static filled the air, crackling and hissing. Then beneath the noise they heard it. A pattern, a rhythm, not natural. Not random. It's a distress beacon, Jiwoo said slowly. An old one. The format is ancient from before the Galactic Council even existed. The science officer, a young Valthine named Yuna, moved to examine the data. Her eyes widened as she studied the signal structure. This technology is primitive by our standards, but look at this encoding. It's incredibly efficient. Whoever built this understood information compression at a fundamental level. Can you trace the source? Taimin asked. Already done, Jiwoo replied. It's coming from a star system that's not even in our navigation charts. The signal has been broadcasting for centuries, but we only detected it now because... She paused. Because it attached itself to our sensor sweep. It recognized our scan and responded. This beacon is smart. Yuna pulled up more data. Sir, there's something else. The signal contains a word in an old language. Pre-council era. It says... She looked up at Taimin with an expression of disbelief. It says human. The bridge went silent. Every species in the galaxy knew the legends. The humans were supposed to be the ghost story you told young warriors. They were the cautionary tale about pride and stubbornness. According to the old stories, humans were a species that refused to follow the natural order. They didn't have armored shells like the Draxel. They weren't telepathic like the Qurani. They didn't have the Valtheans' natural grasp of technology. What they had, the stories said, was something more dangerous. They had the inability to accept defeat. The legends claimed that humans could turn losing battles into victories through sheer determination. They supposedly fought harder when wounded, became more dangerous when cornered. They allegedly survived in environments that should have killed them and won wars they should have lost. Most species dismissed these stories as ancient propaganda. Some thought humans were a made-up race invented to inspire soldiers. Others believed they might have existed once but went extinct long ago, probably through their own reckless behavior. Humans aren't real, Taemin said, but his voice lacked conviction. They're legends. Legends don't broadcast distress signals, Yuna pointed out. Jiwoo was still analyzing the signal. There's more data here. Partial star charts, energy signatures, and... Sir, there are defensive weapons powering up in that system. Old weapons, but they still work. Something in Sector 842 is very much alive and doesn't want visitors. Taemin made a decision that would probably end his career. Plot a course to those coordinates. We're investigating. Sir, the Council gave no authorization for exploration, his first officer warned. We're supposed to be defending the outer colonies. We are defending them, Taemin said, by looking for answers. If there's any chance that humans are real, if there's any possibility they survived. He looked at the tactical display showing the spreading Krith swarm. Then maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they know how to win. Captain Haewon volunteered to lead the expedition. She was young for a captain, but she had earned her command through skill, not politics. Her ship, the Seeker, was designed for exploration and first contact situations. If they found anything in the dead zone, she would handle it correctly. 2 other ships joined her. The Council, hearing about the unauthorized mission, sent angry demands for their return. Taemin ignored them all. He was gambling everything on a legend. 3 days later, Haewon's expedition reached Sector 842. What they found made the legend suddenly, terrifyingly real. A star system lay before them, hidden behind a debris field that scattered sensors and made navigation nearly impossible. But once through that barrier, they saw it. A blue-green planet, scarred with old wounds but unmistakably alive. Orbital stations, ancient but functional, tracked their approach. On the planet's surface, cities glowed in the darkness. Lights, civilization, life. We're being scanned, Haewon's tactical officer reported. The technology is strange. Primitive in some ways, but it's doing things our systems can't explain. It's like they're using technology wrong, but it's working anyway. Open all communication channels, Haewon ordered. Broadcast peaceful intentions in every language we know. They waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. The orbital defenses didn't fire, but they didn't power down either. Then, finally, a response came. The voice was rough, speaking Galactic Standard with an accent no one had heard before. The words were simple, direct, and left no room for misunderstanding. State your purpose or leave our space. You have 60 seconds to decide. Haewon looked at her crew. They had found something that shouldn't exist. They had found humans, and the humans, it seemed, were not happy to see them. This is Captain Haewon of the Galactic Council, she said carefully. We come in peace. We need your help. The galaxy is dying, and we don't know how to save it. Another long pause. Then the voice spoke again, colder this time. The galaxy left us to die. Why should we care if it's dying now? The landing shuttle descended through thick clouds that tasted of salt and ash. Haewon watched through the viewport as the planet's surface came into view. What she saw made her heart ache. Cities sprawled below, but they were patchwork things. Ancient towers stood beside crude shelters. Advanced technology mixed with primitive solutions. It was the landscape of survival, not prosperity. This was a world that had died and clawed its way back to life through sheer stubbornness. Look at the forests, said Yuna, the Valthene scientist sitting beside her. They're reclaiming the industrial zones. This planet was heavily developed once, then abandoned to nature, but nature's winning. Security Officer Daehyun checked his weapon for the 3rd time. If these humans are as dangerous as the legends say, we should have brought more soldiers. We brought diplomats and scientists because that's what this situation needs, Haewon said firmly. We're not here to fight. We're here to ask for help. The shuttle touched down on a landing pad that had been built from salvaged materials. Armed figures surrounded them immediately, weapons raised. The humans wore armor that looked cobbled together from a dozen different sources, but Haiwan noticed it was well maintained. These people knew how to care for their equipment. A woman stepped forward from the group. She was tall, with scars crossing her face like a map of old battles. Her eyes were hard but intelligent. She studied the alien visitors with the careful attention of someone who had learned not to trust easily. "I am so damn," she said in rough galactic standard. "Council representative for Earth. You have permission to speak. Make it count." Haiwan bowed in the Valthine manner, a gesture of respect. "Thank you for seeing us. I know we're not welcome here. I know the galaxy failed you." "Failed us?" Sodam's laugh was bitter. "The galaxy forgot we existed. When the swarm came 300 years ago, we screamed into the void. We begged for help. No one answered. No one came. The swarm?" Yuna stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "You fought the Kreth before?" "We didn't call them Kreth," Sodam said. "We called them the End because that's what they were. They came without warning. No communication, no demands. Just consumption. They landed on every continent simultaneously and began eating. Not just people, everything. Trees, buildings, metal, stone. They consumed it all and built more of themselves." She gestured to a distant city where skyscrapers stood like broken teeth. Beijing died in 3 days. New York lasted a week. Moscow held for 2 weeks, but only because we collapsed the tunnels and buried them in nuclear fire. We threw everything at them. Every weapon humanity had ever built. "How did you survive?" Haiwan asked quietly. Sodam's expression darkened. "We learned to die slowly. We learned that you can't beat the swarm in direct combat. They adapt too fast. Every weapon works once, maybe twice, then becomes useless. So we changed tactics. We stopped trying to kill them and started trying to confuse them." She led them into a building that served as a command center. Inside, other humans worked at stations mixing old and new technology. A man approached, military bearing obvious despite casual clothes. His gray hair spoke of age, but his movements were sharp. "This is General Jinho," Sodam said. "He commanded our defense during the final battles." Jinho studied the aliens with open suspicion. "You want to know how we beat them? We didn't. We just made ourselves too expensive to consume. We poisoned our own water supplies. We burned our own food stores. We made every city a trap and every building a bomb. We gave the swarm nothing but ashes and death. Eventually they left," Sodam continued. "Not because we defeated them, but because we weren't worth the effort anymore. We had made our world so toxic, so dangerous that they moved on to easier prey. And you've been rebuilding ever since," Yuna said, looking around at the mix of technologies. "Alone." "We couldn't risk contact," said a younger woman who stepped forward. "I'm Bora, tactical officer. After the swarm left, we had to consider the possibility that someone sent them. Maybe as a weapon. Maybe as a test. We didn't know who to trust, so we trusted no one." Haiwan felt the weight of that isolation. 300 years. Generations born and died believing the galaxy had abandoned them, or worse, wanted them dead, and now she was asking them to help that same galaxy. "The swarm is back," she said simply. "They're stronger now. They've destroyed 4 worlds in as many months. Our fleets can't stop them. Everything we try, they adapt. We're losing, and you want us to save you?" Jinho's voice was cold. "The galaxy that left us to burn?" "I want you to save yourselves," Haiwan said. "Because if we fall, they'll come here next. And this time they'll know about your tricks. They'll be ready." Silence filled the room. The humans looked at each other, having silent conversations with glances and small gestures. Finally, a younger man spoke up. He wore engineer's clothing, stained with grease and scarred with burns. "She's right," he said. "I'm Hyunwoo. I designed our orbital defenses. They're good, but not good enough. If the swarm comes back with the strength you're describing, we'll last maybe a month, maybe 2 if we're lucky." "We shouldn't get involved," Jinho argued. "This isn't our fight. Every fight is our fight if we want to survive," Hyunwoo countered. "We can hide here and hope they forget about us, or we can take the battle to them. I vote for fighting." Sodam raised her hand for silence. She walked to a window and stared out at the scarred city. 300 years ago, 9 billion humans lived on this planet. Today we number barely 50 million. We're all that's left. Every person in this room lost family in the swarm war. We all carry those scars." She turned back to face them. "But Hyunwoo is right. If the galaxy falls, we're next. And I refuse to sit here waiting for extinction." She looked at Jinho. "We'll send 1 ship, 1 crew. They'll observe this galactic fleet and assess whether it's worth helping. If the Council is truly fighting for survival and not playing politics, we'll consider more aid. But we make no promises. Jinho's jaw tightened, but he nodded. I'll command the mission personally. If I'm risking human lives, I'll be the one making the decisions. Take the Indomitable, Sodam said. Hay-1 later learned that the Indomitable was something of a legend among humans. It was built from salvaged alien technology captured from the original swarm attack, combined with human engineering, and powered by a fusion system that technically shouldn't work, but did anyway. It was ugly, asymmetrical, and broke a dozen engineering principles. It was also one of the most feared ships in the human fleet. Before they left, Yuna couldn't resist examining human technology. Hyunwoo gave her a tour of their workshops, and she was amazed by what she saw. Humans combined technologies in ways that made no logical sense. They forced systems designed for different purposes to work together through sheer ingenuity and stubbornness. This shouldn't work, Yuna said, examining a power coupling that connected three incompatible systems. I know, Hyunwoo said cheerfully, but it does. That's the thing about human engineering. We don't ask if something should work. We make it work. Your people don't think like us, Yuna observed. No, we don't, Hyunwoo agreed. You design systems based on principles and theory. We design systems based on what we have available and what needs to get done. You do things the right way. We do things the working way. Yuna found herself smiling. I think we could learn from each other. Maybe, Hyunwoo said. If we survive long enough. 3 days later, the Indomitable left Earth's orbit. Jinho commanded a crew of 50 humans, including Bora as tactical officer and Hyunwoo as chief engineer. They followed Hay-1's ship toward the Galactic Fleet staging grounds. On the observation deck, Bora stood beside Jinho, watching Earth shrink in the distance. Are we making a mistake? She asked quietly. Probably, Jinho said. But making mistakes is better than doing nothing. Our ancestors learned that. When the swarm came, people who played it safe died first. People who took risks, who tried crazy things, who refused to give up, some of them survived. Some, Bora repeated. Some is better than none, Jinho said. And right now, the galaxy needs people who are willing to try impossible things. Lucky for them, impossible is what humans do best. The Indomitable's engines flared brighter as it jumped to faster than light speed. Behind it, Earth continued its slow rotation, scarred but unbroken. Ahead lay a galaxy at war, and a species that had thought humans were just legends was about to learn the truth. Myths don't fight. Legends don't bleed. But humans do both, and they never ever stop. The Galactic Defense Fleet staging ground orbited a gas giant called Theta 7. Hundreds of ships floated in formation, representing 17 different species and dozens of military traditions. The vessels gleamed with perfect engineering, each one a masterpiece of their species' technology. Then the Indomitable arrived, and everyone stared. The human ship looked like someone had built it from spare parts found in a junkyard. Its hull was patched with panels from at least 5 different ship types. The engines glowed with an unstable blue light that made Valthene engineers nervous. Weapons pods stuck out at odd angles, giving it the appearance of a metal porcupine. That thing flies? Commander Taemin muttered from his flagship's bridge. Apparently, Jiwoo said, checking the sensor readings. Though our systems can't agree on how. Half our sensors say it should fall apart, the other half say it shouldn't exist at all. The Indomitable docked at the station, and Jinho came aboard with Bora and Hyunwoo for the strategy meeting. The conference room fell silent when they entered. Representatives from all 17 species studied the humans with everything from curiosity to suspicion. Jinho didn't seem impressed by the attention. He took a seat without asking permission and listened as Commander Taemin outlined the situation. The Kreth swarm is advancing on the Theta 7 mining colonies, Taemin explained, highlighting a star map. Intelligence suggests they have 30 capital bioships and 300 smaller vessels. We have superior numbers, 50 capital ships and 800 support craft. Your intelligence is wrong, Bora said flatly. The room went cold. A Draxel admiral stood, his armored bulk making the floor creak. You dare question our intelligence network? Yes, Bora said simply. She stood and approached the star map. May I? Taemin, intrigued despite himself, nodded. Bora manipulated the controls, adding new data to the display. You're tracking the swarm's biosignatures, correct? That's smart. But you're only counting the large signatures. Look here, here, and here. She pointed to gaps in the sensor data. These aren't empty space. These are small bioships using larger ones as cover. The swarm knows you're watching. They're hiding half their force. Yuna leaned forward, studying the data. How can you tell? Because they did the same thing to us, Bora said. 300 years ago, we learned to look for the shadows, not just the light. Trust me, you're facing at least twice the force you think you are. The intelligence officer, a Quirani named Koth, examined the data through his telepathic interface. His mental voice sounded troubled. She might be right. We've been focusing on large-scale scans. Smaller craft could hide in the background noise. Jinho studied the strategic layout. Your battle plan is too rigid. You've set up a perfect defensive formation. The swarm will recognize that and exploit it. Our formation follows 3,000 years of military doctrine. The Draxel Admiral rumbled. It has never failed. Then the swarm will make it fail for the first time, Jinho said. They learn. They adapt. If you fight them the way you've always fought, you'll lose the way everyone else has lost. And what do you suggest? Taemin asked, genuinely curious now. Chaos, Jinho said simply. The swarm's strength is coordination. They move as one mind. That's efficient, but it also makes them predictable. If we can introduce enough chaos, enough unpredictable elements, we can confuse their coordination. Make them react instead of act. The Draxel Admiral snorted. Chaos is not strategy. It's suicide. On Earth we have a saying, Jinho replied. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. The swarm has a plan. We need to punch them in the face. The meeting ended with no consensus. The Council's military commanders rejected human advice as reckless. Jinho returned to the Indomitable with Bora and Hunwoo. They're going to lose, Bora said as they walked through the station corridors. Probably, Jinho agreed, but we'll be there to help pick up the pieces. Or die trying, Hyunwoo added cheerfully. When the battle came 2 days later, it came exactly as Bora had predicted. The Kreth swarm appeared in twice the numbers the Council expected. Their bioships emerged from faster-than-light travel in a perfect formation that immediately split the Galactic Fleet's defensive line. All ships, maintain formation, Taemin ordered from his flagship. But the formation was already breaking. Swarm bioships were faster and more maneuverable than the Council's rigid formations allowed for. Within minutes, the perfect military formation became scattered clusters of ships trying desperately to coordinate. The Indomitable had been assigned to rearguard duty, essentially kept out of the fight. Jinho watched the battle unfold on his tactical display with growing frustration. They're getting slaughtered, Bora reported. The flagship is taking heavy damage. Communications are being jammed. The formation is falling apart. Captain, we should help, Hyunwoo said. We weren't ordered to engage, Jinho said, but his hands were already moving to the controls. Of course, we also weren't ordered to sit here and watch allies die. He opened fleet-wide communications. All human crew, battle stations. We're going in. Sir, the Council didn't authorize, his communications officer began. The Council is about to be dead if we don't move now, Jinho snapped. Navigation, plot us a course through that debris field. Weapons, target the smaller bioships. Bora, find me their relay organisms. The Indomitable surged forward, its patchwork engines flaring with unstable energy. Other ships had to move in precise formations to avoid collision. The human ship dove through gaps that shouldn't have existed, rolled at angles that violated safety regulations, and generally flew like its pilot was insane. They're breaking formation, a Draxel captain shouted over the comm. They don't have formation, Taemin said, watching the Indomitable's impossible maneuvers. They have chaos. And chaos worked. The swarm's coordination was perfect when facing predictable opponents. But the Indomitable wasn't predictable. It fired from angles the bioships didn't expect. It used destroyed vessels as cover, hiding its approach until the last second. It targeted the small relay organisms that Bora had identified, the ones that coordinated clusters of swarm ships. When a relay died, its cluster of bioships lost coordination for several seconds. They still fought, but independently instead of as a hive mind. That moment of confusion was all the opening other ships needed. Target the relay organism at coordinates 473, Bora called out. It's controlling that group of 30 bioships. Firing, the weapons officer responded. The relay organism exploded in a burst of green ichor. Instantly, 30 bioships faltered, their perfect coordination dissolving into individual confusion. 3 galactic fleet ships took advantage, destroying half the cluster before it could reorganize. HFY, watching from her own ship, immediately understood what the humans were doing. All ships target the small organisms near swarm clusters. They're relay nodes. Other captains, seeing the tactic work, began to follow the Indomitable's lead. The battle shifted from rigid formation warfare to something more fluid, more aggressive. Taemin's damaged flagship limped back from the front lines. He watched the tactical display with amazement. The human ship was everywhere at once, diving, rolling, appearing where no ship should be able to go. It was reckless. It was insane. It was working. The swarm began to pull back. For the first time in months, they were retreating. Not because they were losing, the casualties were roughly even, but because they were facing something they couldn't predict or adapt to fast enough. Jinho saw the retreat beginning and made a decision that horrified the other captains. All weapons. Pursue and destroy, he ordered. Don't let them escape. Sir, they're retreating, his tactical officer said. The battle's over. No, it's not, Jinho said grimly. If they escape, they'll adapt. They'll learn from this. Next time we try these tactics, they'll be ready. We have to kill them now while they're confused. The Indomitable chased the retreating bioships with savage efficiency. Other human weapons had left their ships crippled but alive. Now those wounded vessels were destroyed completely. It wasn't mercy. It was necessity. Some of the other species were horrified by the aggression. The humans didn't just defeat their enemies, they eliminated them completely. But Bora understood. The swarm doesn't take prisoners. They don't sign treaties. You can't negotiate with them. The only language they understand is survival. If you let them live, they come back stronger. The battle ended with the swarm in full retreat and 30 of their bioships destroyed completely. The Galactic fleet had lost 30 ships as well, with dozens more damaged. It was costly, but they had won. For the first time since the Kreth appeared, the Galactic Defense Fleet had won a real battle. In the aftermath, Taemin personally visited the Indomitable. The human ship looked even worse up close, scorched, dented, leaking atmosphere from a dozen places. But it was still flying. Jinho met him in the docking bay, covered in sweat and grime. You violated direct orders, Taemin said. Yes, sir, Jinho replied. You broke formation and endangered other ships with your reckless flying. Yes, sir. You pursued fleeing enemies against protocol. Yes, sir. Taemin was quiet for a moment. Then he extended his hand in the human gesture of respect that HFY had taught him. Thank you. You saved us. Jinho shook his hand. We saved ourselves. You just happened to be there too. The news of humanity's intervention spread across the galaxy faster than light travel. Within days, every civilized world knew that the legendary humans were real, and they had turned the tide in a battle the Galactic fleet was losing. Public reaction was divided sharply. Some worlds celebrated, building monuments to the brave warriors who came from the shadows to save them. Others feared these unpredictable beings who fought without following proper military protocol. And some quietly wondered if humans might be more dangerous than the swarm. The Galactic Council summoned Earth's representatives for formal negotiations. Sodam arrived with a small group, a diplomatic aide named Yunji and a veteran soldier called Minsu, who had survived the original swarm war. They traveled in a simple ship, refusing the luxury vessels the Council offered. The Council chambers were designed to inspire awe. Built from crystalline materials that caught and reflected light in stunning patterns, the massive room could hold thousands. Every surface displayed the achievements of galactic civilization: art, technology, monuments to peace and prosperity. Sodam walked through it all without showing any emotion. She had seen Earth's great cities reduced to ash. Pretty buildings didn't impress her anymore. Chairman Vorath greeted them personally, his Draxel bulk making the floor vibrate with each step. Welcome, Representative Sodam. We are honored to finally meet humanity. You're honored now that we've proven useful, Sodam said bluntly. 300 years ago you weren't so interested. Vorath's armored face couldn't show expression, but his voice held discomfort. The circumstances of Earth's isolation were unfortunate. The Council was unaware of your situation. You were unaware because you never checked, Sodam replied. But that's the past. Let's talk about the present. You summoned us. What do you want? The formal negotiations began the next day. The council offered everything they thought humanity would want. Advanced technology, trade agreements, access to galactic medicine and science, construction assistance to rebuild Earth's damaged cities, recognition as a full member species with voting rights. In exchange, humanity would place its military forces under council command for the duration of the swarm crisis. Sodam listened to the entire presentation without interrupting. When they finished, she sat in silence for a long moment. No, she said finally. The council chamber erupted. Representatives from a dozen species demanded explanations. How dare Earth refuse such generous terms? Didn't humans understand the honor being offered? Sodam waited for the noise to die down. You're not offering partnership. You're offering subordination. You want human tactics and human courage, but you want to maintain your command structure and your authority. You want us to fight your war your way. We want unity, Vorath said carefully. The swarm can only be defeated if all species work together under unified command. Unity doesn't mean everyone follows your orders, Sodam said. Real unity means respecting different approaches, learning from each other. But you don't want to learn from us. You want to use us, a Qurani counselor spoke, his mental voice echoing in everyone's mind. We have thousands of years of military experience. Humanity has only fought one major war. You ask us to abandon our expertise for your chaos. Our chaos saved your fleet, Minsu spoke up for the first time. His voice was rough with age. I was there when the swarm came to Earth. I watched our military try to fight them properly with formations and tactics and all the right procedures. We lost every single battle fought that way. We only started winning when we threw out the rulebook and started fighting dirty. While the public negotiations continued, Yunji worked behind the scenes. She met with various council members privately, building relationships and gathering information. What she discovered disturbed her. The council was far more fractured than it appeared. Some species genuinely wanted humanity as equals and allies. Others saw humans as dangerous barbarians who needed to be controlled. And a few were secretly negotiating with factions who believed coexistence with the swarm was possible. They think they can make peace, Yunji reported to Sodam that evening. Some counselors believe the swarm is just misunderstood, that if we communicate properly we can find common ground. Sodam's expression darkened. The swarm doesn't communicate. They consume. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a fool or a traitor. Meanwhile, Captain Jinho remained with the fleet, working alongside Taiman to train mixed species units in human tactics. Progress was slow. Most species found human methods uncomfortable. You don't maintain formation, a Draxel officer complained during training exercises. How are we supposed to coordinate if everyone is moving unpredictably? You coordinate by paying attention, Jinho replied. Watch your teammates. React to what they do. Stop waiting for orders and start thinking for yourself. That's not how military discipline works, the Draxel insisted. It's how survival works, Jinho shot back. Your discipline is impressive. Your formations are beautiful. But beautiful formations make easy targets for the swarm. Hei-1 supported the training and her crew showed the most progress. Yuna, the Valthene scientist, had become friends with engineer Hyunwoo. They spent hours sharing knowledge, combining Valthene precision with human improvisation. Look at this, Hyunwoo said, showing her a modified shield generator. I took your energy distribution system and added our feedback loop. It shouldn't work according to your physics, but it does. The shield is 30% stronger. You're right, it shouldn't work, Yuna said, examining the device. The feedback loop creates instabilities that should collapse the field. But somehow it's stabilizing them instead. She looked up with wonder. You're making the shield stronger by making it more chaotic. Exactly, Hyunwoo grinned. Perfection is brittle. It breaks under pressure. But something messy, something that already has a little chaos built in, that can bend instead of breaking. Then the horrifying discovery came. A research team investigating a recent swarm attack found something that shouldn't exist. The bioships they examined showed tactical modifications, specifically designed to counter human fighting styles. The swarm was adapting, but not through trial and error. They were adapting too fast, too specifically. Someone was helping them. Bora conducted the investigation personally. She reviewed communication logs, supply records, battle data. 3 weeks of sleepless work led her to the truth. Counselor Thexer, a respected Qurani diplomat who had served for decades, had been feeding tactical information to the swarm. Not through direct communication, the swarm didn't communicate, but through carefully planned data leaks. He had been leaving information where swarm scouts could find it, allowing them to learn and adapt faster. When confronted, Thexar didn't deny it. "I was trying to make peace," he said, his telepathic voice full of anguish. "The swarm is a living species. They have the right to exist. I thought if I showed them we weren't a threat, if I demonstrated willingness to cooperate, they would stop attacking." "The swarm doesn't make peace," Bora said coldly. "They only understand consumption. You weren't negotiating with them. You were feeding them." "I was trying to save lives," Thexar protested. "You were betraying the galaxy," Taman said. He had arrived to oversee the interrogation. "How much did you give them?" Thexar's telepathic presence collapsed under guilt. "Everything. Battle plans, defensive positions, fleet movements. I believed." He never finished. Before anyone could stop him, Thexar used his telepathic abilities to shut down his own brain. He died instantly, leaving behind only the evidence of his betrayal. The revelation shook the council to its core. If one counselor had been compromised, how many others might be? Paranoia spread through the government. Trust, already fragile, shattered completely. When Sodam learned of the betrayal, she called for an emergency meeting with Chairman Vorath. "This is why we refuse your offer," she said bluntly. "Your council is compromised. Your command structure has traitors, and you want us to put our forces under that same structure? No, absolutely not. The traitor is dead," Vorath said. "We are investigating to ensure no others exist. And while you investigate, the swarm is getting stronger," Sodam said. "Every day you spend on politics is a day they spend adapting. You need to make a decision, Chairman. Do you want our help as equals, or do you want to keep playing power games?" "The Council will not surrender its authority," Vorath said firmly. "Then the Council can fight alone," Sodam stood to leave. "Humanity will defend itself. The rest of the galaxy can make its own choices." "Wait," Vorath said. Something in his voice made Sodam pause. If we were to restructure the command system, to create a joint leadership between human and galactic forces, would that be acceptable?" Sodam turned back slowly. "Joint command means equal authority, not human advisors reporting to council commanders. Equal. That would be unprecedented," Vorath said. "So is your current situation," Sodam replied. "You're losing this war using old methods. Maybe it's time to try something unprecedented." The negotiations continued for another week. They were tense, filled with arguments and compromises from both sides. But slowly, painfully, an agreement took shape. The Galactic Defense Fleet would be reorganized under joint command. Jinho and Taimin would serve as co-commanders. Bora couldn't sleep. She had been staring at tactical data for 3 days straight, surviving on stimulants and stubbornness. But finally she had found it. "The pattern," she said, bursting into the command center where Jinho and Taimin were planning fleet movements. "I found the pattern." She pulled up a galactic map and highlighted every world the swarm had attacked. Red dots spread across the display, seemingly random. But then she added connecting lines. "They're not attacking randomly," Bora said, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. "Look at the geometry. Every conquered world forms a network, and they all point here." She zoomed in on the galactic core, the Nexus. The Nexus was an ancient stellar phenomenon, a stable wormhole network that connected major hyperspace lanes throughout the galaxy. It was the hub of all galactic travel. Whoever controlled the Nexus could reach any system in days instead of months. "If they take the Nexus," Taman said slowly, understanding dawning, "they can spread everywhere at once. The galaxy won't just fall," Jinho added grimly. "It will be consumed within months, maybe weeks." They called an emergency meeting with all fleet commanders. Representatives from 17 species gathered to hear Bora's analysis. The reaction was immediate and unanimous. They had to defend the Nexus at all costs. "We'll gather every available ship," Vorath announced. "The largest fleet in recorded history. They cannot break through our numbers." But Sodam had a troubling question. How did the swarm learn about the Nexus? They're a hive mind that consumes and adapts. They don't have strategic thinking at that scale. They're reactive, not proactive. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Someone had told them. The traitor Thexar was dead, but he had already given the swarm everything they needed to know. It doesn't matter how they learned, Jinho said. What matters is stopping them. How long until they reach the Nexus? 6 days, reported the intelligence officer. Maybe 7. Then we have 6 days to prepare for the biggest battle in galactic history, Taman said. The call went out across the galaxy. Every species contributed everything they had. Warships that had been in mothballs for decades were brought back into service. Merchant vessels were retrofitted with weapons. Even civilian transports volunteered to serve as support craft. Earth sent 12 more ships, stripping their home system of almost all defenses. Sodam made the decision personally, knowing that if they lost at the Nexus, Earth would fall anyway. Among the new arrivals was a young woman named Jisoo, a tactical prodigy who had studied every battle ever fought against the Swarm. She was Minsu's protege, trained by the veteran who had survived Earth's darkest days. I've analyzed every engagement, Jisoo reported to the command staff. The Swarm has been learning, but they have one fundamental weakness. They're a network. Perfect coordination is their strength, but it's also a vulnerability. We've tried jamming their communications, a Draxil admiral said. It doesn't work. Their biolink is too strong. Not jamming, Jisoo said. Overloading. A network that receives too much contradictory information doesn't just lose coordination. It freezes while trying to process everything. Yunwoo and Yuna immediately understood. A resonance weapon, Hyunwoo said. Broadcast chaos on the same frequencies they use to coordinate. Can you build it? Taemin asked. Yes, Yuna said. But it requires technology from both our species. Human neural implants for the random signal generation, combined with Valthene quantum processors for the amplification. It would need to be massive, and it would need to be delivered directly into their formation. A suicide mission, Jinho said quietly. Maybe not suicide, Yunwoo said. If we build it into a fast ship with good shields, the crew might have time to activate it and escape before— No, Yuna interrupted. The activation sequence requires constant monitoring. Someone needs to stay with it until the moment it triggers. And when it triggers, the energy release will destroy everything within a kilometer. There's no escape. The room went silent. They were asking someone to die. I'll do it, Jinho said immediately. No, Taemin said. You're needed to command the fleet. I'll go, Bor offered. I know the Swarm better than anyone. I can identify the best deployment point. Sodam stood. I'm going. Representative, Vorath began. I'm not a politician anymore, Sodam said firmly. I'm a soldier. I've been a soldier since I was 14 years old and the Swarm came to Earth. This is what soldiers do. We protect what we love, no matter the cost. You're asking for volunteers? Asked Daehyun, the security officer. I'm coming too. A Draxil warrior named Kextar stepped forward. I will join this mission. My honor demands it. Hyunwoo raised his hand. It's my design. I need to be there to make sure it works. Sodam looked at each of them. Young Daehyun, who had barely survived Earth's isolation. Ancient Kextar, who had fought in 100 battles. Hyunwoo with his brilliant mind and terrible jokes. They were offering their lives and she couldn't refuse them. We call the ship Last Stand, she said, because that's what this is. The Swarm arrived on schedule and they brought everything. Millions of bioships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. The scouts had counted thousands. The reality was worse. Much worse, by the ancestors, Taemin whispered. There are millions of them. The galactic fleet was the largest ever assembled. 3,000 warships from 17 species, supported by 10,000 smaller vessels. But the Swarm outnumbered them 10-1. All ships engage, Jinho ordered, his voice steady despite the impossible odds. The battle began like a collision between galaxies. Energy weapons lit up space with colors that had no names. Bioships and metal vessels clashed in formations measured in light seconds. Ships died by the hundreds in the first minute. The fleet fought desperately, but they were being pushed back. The Swarm's coordination was perfect. Every bioship knew where every other bioship was. They moved as one massive organism, adapting to every tactic the fleet tried. Human unpredictability helped, but not enough. The Swarm had studied human tactics through Thexar's betrayal. They were ready for chaos now. They had learned. The center isn't holding, Taemin reported from his flagship. We're losing ships faster than they are. Last Stand, you're clear to proceed, Jinho said, hating himself for giving the order. Sodam's ship broke from the formation and accelerated toward the Swarm's center. It was fast, heavily shielded, and packed with the resonance weapon that might save them all. "Here we go," Hyunwoo said, monitoring the weapon systems. 5 minutes to optimal deployment position." They punched through the swarm's outer formations, taking hits but keeping shields up. Daehyun manned the defensive weapons, buying them seconds with each enemy he destroyed. Kexter handled navigation with the skill of a warrior who had faced death many times. 3 minutes, Hyunwoo reported. A massive bioship loomed in front of them, blocking their path. Its weapons charged enough firepower to vaporize the last stand. Kextar didn't hesitate. He rammed their ship through it, using their shield as a battering ram. The bioship split in half, but their shields dropped to 30%. "I'm sealing the hull breach," Kextar called out. Then alarms screamed. "The breach is too large. I can't seal it from here." "Then seal it from there," Sodam said, knowing what he was planning. Kextar moved to the breach, where space tried to suck them all into vacuum. He pulled out an emergency seal, basically a metal plate that he would have to physically hold in place while the automated systems welded it shut. "It's been an honor fighting with humans," Kextar said. He stepped into the breach and held the seal in place. His armor kept him alive for almost 30 seconds while the systems welded. When the seal was complete, Kextar was gone. "Pulled into space. 2 minutes," Hyunwoo said, his voice shaking. They reached the center of the swarm formation, where the largest bioconstruct pulsed with coordination signals. This was the heart of their network, the central nexus that synchronized millions of bioships. 1 minute to activation, Hyunwoo said. Charging the weapon now, defensive fire hammered their ship. Shields dropped to 0. Hull breaches opened. Daehyun screamed defiance as he returned fire, holding off the bioships for precious seconds. Then something hit them hard. The ship spun. Daehyun's station exploded. He was thrown across the bridge and didn't get up. 30 seconds, Hyunwoo said. He was bleeding from a head wound but kept working. Sodam took over the weapons, giving Hyunwoo cover. "Activate it," she ordered. 10 seconds. The last stand was dying around them. Life support was failing. Fire spread through the corridors. But the weapon was ready. "Activating now," Hyunwoo said. His hands moved across the controls with practiced precision. "It's working. The signal is broadcasting. The swarm is, look at them." On the tactical display, the swarm's perfect formation was dissolving into chaos. Bioships crashed into each other as contradictory commands flooded their network. The hive mind was freezing, unable to process the overload of random information. "Get to the escape pods," Sodam ordered. "There are no escape pods left," Hyunwoo said calmly. "They were destroyed 10 seconds ago." Sodam looked at him, this brilliant engineer who had built impossible things from spare parts and refused to accept defeat. "I'm sorry, don't be," Hyunwoo smiled. "We did it. We actually did it." The weapon reached critical energy. Space itself seemed to scream.